Inside Boxing's Throwdown. I'm Aurelio Martinez, Stephen Johnson, and this is our second segment of the week. And we're going to continue recapping because there was a lot of action, Steve, going on. We want to touch base, but let's quickly touch base on something that they did an awful lot of pre-television, you might want to call it, on Beltran, on his story. Raimundo Beltran, on his story about, he retired and then he said, no, I can't, I got to come back, and how he was trying to get his visa to come into here, and an actual passport and citizenships to the United States, and kind of a hard luck story. And the thing about it is, so something about boxers is they all want to have a hard luck story, okay? And some of them are legitimate, and I think Beltran's was legitimate. And some are just, I grew up in a neighborhood where I had a fight, things like that. You hear it all the time. And sometimes it gets old news, But in this case, they talked about him, coming back he was a good boxer, and he's actually making headway into getting his papers all coordinated and fixed. But the fight itself, boy, I'll tell you what, it was a heck of a fight, and it could have went either way. I mean, but he won. He's a world champion now. Beltran finally won a world championship. Give me your take on the fight a little bit before we move forward.
Okay, before we move forward, because we don't spend too much time on it, but the story was nice. It was a nice story about Raimundo Beltran. I remember I was in Omaha when he fought Terrence Crawford. He's a tough out. His story's nice. He was a sparring partner for Manny Pacquiao, the whole bit, But the whole country, I think, because of the media, was behind him on this fight.
Yeah.
Because I think the way it was progressed to us, and I hope is that if he won the fight, his citizenship was about a done deal. Okay.
Yeah.
So he wins, and he's going to be a citizen, and he can, stay here in the United States with his family. That being said, he didn't win the fight, in my opinion. Paulus, in my opinion, clearly beat him. Clearly. I mean, I know I'm sure there's some people that disagree, but if you said you watched the fight and you weren't just cheerleading for Beltran, he got beat. He got beat. But because the story is a good story and the whole bit, I guess we'll have to let it go. But the African, Paulus, clearly came in here, didn't give a shit about what was going on with Beltran.
Probably didn't know and didn't care.
It didn't. Yeah. He came in here to win, and that's what he did. So that's, once again, it's a shame, but I'll let it go because it was a good story.
Okay, let's move on because that gets into the politics of
yes, it does.
of your president. Okay, so let's move on to a fighter that I really like, and I've liked him since he came on the scene, and that's our boy Benavidez. Okay,
David Benavidez.
He fought, and he had a rematch with Gavril.
Ronald Gavril.
With Ronald Gavril, okay? Now, what's interesting about this whole rematch, Steve, is it was Benavidez that requested an immediate rematch. Now, that's uncommon for the winner to request a rematch, but he did. He wanted to prove that, hey, he won fair and square, and he wanted to prove that he could have, the way it was, that he could have knocked him out, but he didn't, and he was going to do it this time.
Was this because of him getting knocked down in the 12th round like he did?
It must have been, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, he came in and he looked good. But I'm going to tell you what, again, Benavidez got tired in the last 2 rounds. And I'm going to tell you what, because he took more punishment in the last 2 rounds than he did the entire fight.
Well, let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
There's a reason for that. And we got to see it after the fight when he took his gloves off.
Oh, okay.
And his right hand, that knuckle there, it was, like you said, it looked like it was broken. It might have been broken.
One hand was bleeding, the other one had a big bruised or broken.
Yeah, it was that right hand. It might have been broken. And he even said, that his hands hurt and he wasn't able to do what he wanted to do. Not making excuses.
Well, no, yeah, makes
but I
sense.
think he was on pace before that. I think he said after the 10th round. He was on par to stop Gavril. He was putting it on him pretty good.
I agree.
And I have to say this. Once again, Mayweather Promotions. Here they go with another fighter And this kid, Gavril, he's from Romania.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, he was literally a punching bag throughout the fight, man. I'm concerned. I have to say this. I'm concerned about the health for him, just like I'm concerned about the health for Brandon Rios. I mean, these guys just absorb so much punishment. That attitude of I'll take two to get one.
Well,
that's a hard way to go.
He took a beating.
He took a severe beating.
He took a beating. I'm not sure you can get many rounds. Maybe them last two.
A gift. But those are gifts.
Yeah, but I mean, I was watching the fight. And we'll move on because we got to move on. But I'm with you. Being that I work corners, I train, and I'm heavily involved in boxing. I honestly was thinking, why was the corner not stopping this fight? He wasn't going to win.
I have to say that too.
He wasn't going to win. So back up, take the loss, and save your fighter for another day so he can learn and continue, because he's a tough fighter and he's still in the mix.
Yeah.
So why take the chance of getting him really hurt?
Real quick before we go, don't you think if you trained in the Mayweather gym, they would be working on it with Floyd, with him being the defensive whiz that he was? They would have had this kid work on defense. Wouldn't you think?
You would think so.
Okay, that's all I want to say about it. Let's move on.
But anyway, let's move on. Let's move on to the fight that really everyone was waiting to watch this weekend, and that's with Danny Garcia and Brandon Rios. I mean, everyone, surprisingly, there was a lot of people pulling for Rios, and the key is, on social media and everyone else, there was an awful lot of support and people were pulling for Rios. And was that because they like Rios, or was it because they don't like Danny?
It's because they don't like Danny. Danny's starting to take on more of a personality of his dad now. He's starting to do a lot of chirping. Which usually before, you remember, we all liked Danny. You gave him the title. You said he's sneaky good, which he is.
Sneaky good.
But he used to always say, "Hey, that's my dad. I let him do all that. And that keeps it from me." Now he's absorbing that and he's taking that on, and it doesn't help him. I think most of the people wanted to see him get knocked the fuck out. That's really the way I think most people were there. I said it when they first announced the fight.
Yeah.
Not competitive. I don't think that fight last night was competitive. I think that Brandon Rios did what Brandon Rios does. He comes straight ahead. He shot Warren. That was obvious. Danny Garcia was, if you want to call it ring rust or whatever. The fight itself, it was never a matter of if he was going to knock out Brandon Rios. It was when. And it took him 9 rounds to do that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I disagree with you a little bit. It was competitive in the first 3 rounds. Okay.
Well, Brandon Rios,
and that's simply because Danny Garcia's forte is that he starts slow, and that's just Danny Garcia. He starts slow, and because of his slow start, he allowed Rios to come in and actually make good connections and score and make good contact, and I think that got a lot of the fans up and ooh and ahs and all that. But I'll tell you what, in the 4th round was a changing point. 4th round, Danny was all warmed up. He was moving on and
started taking him apart.
Well, not only did he take him apart, that 4th round he dished out a beating.
Yeah.
And it didn't stop. That was it. From the 4th round up, it was just like Danny was on cue. And then you really saw how much better Danny Garcia is than Brandon Rios. Now, Brandon Rios is his time is coming and left, okay? And it's obvious that it's coming left, and he's a warrior.
Well, let's say this. For last night, just for you people so you know, if you didn't know, Brandon Rios got $500,000. Danny Garcia got $1.2 million.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Rios, I firmly believe that he was approached, and for the figure of $500,000, him being the guy that he is, he said it. You heard him say, I was watching fights and I was telling my wife, I can beat these guys.
Yeah.
No, you can't. But the bottom line is, for $500,000, hey, that's a good way for him to ride off into the sunset.
And that's a good
but
thing.
He still took another beating. I hate to see these guys take these beatings like
and
this.
And he got up after the fight and he says, I got up to fight, something the referee should have stopped the fight.
His corner. He was critical of his corner.
Yeah, you can kill me. Corner stop the fight. I'll die in the ring. Well, we know you'll die in the ring.
That's the problem.
That's why you got to have a corner and people to watch over you, because what good is $500,000 if you're not around to spend it?
Well, your family. You know, he's got a family. He's got a wife and kids.
Yeah, he does.
You know, we don't want to see him go out like that. You know, the term, you know, warrior, and like I said, man, I said that on some social media. I said, you know, it was because people wanted to see Danny Garcia get knocked out. You know, and then the instance where we had at the end with Sean Porter, which we'll talk about in our
I want to talk
segment.
about that because I got a lot of feedback on this whole subject because I was really turned off on Porter coming to the ring. Him and his dad coming into the ring and
Really, how do they allow other boxers to come in?
well, I don't know. You know, usually if it's a planned setup to where they're promoting a next fight like the Deontay Warrior and the Ortiz, things like that. Then
Did you call him Deontay Warrior? Wow, that's a good one.
that is a good one.
Yeah.
Because he is a warrior.
Okay.
Wilder, when he come up with Ortiz, but that was always a plan.
That was scripted.
That was scripted. Okay.
Yeah.
This one wasn't scripted because, you know, first of all, they're interviewing
Danny Garcia.
Danny Garcia. After a post-fight interview talking about the fight, and they asked him about who's next, and of course Keith Thurman was in the audience, and they talked about that, and they talked about him and Spence and all that. They talked about the upper guys, you know, what Danny was going to do next, and at that point Porter's name really wasn't in the mix.
Not at all.
They were talking about Thurman, and Thurman was in the audience, you
And
know,
he was
saying
not
yes.
from the
And
crowd.
let me tell you something, just real quick on Thurman. You know, I'm really getting turned off with him, man. I'm gonna tell you what I'm getting turned off because when they're talking about that possible rematch and stuff, you know, Keith Thurman's got that smile on his face, and the first thing he's done is this. In other words,
I
need the money to fight you. No. Come on, man. You know, and that kind of turns me off. In other words, that means no. That means no. That means I'm scared to fight you. That's what that means. I'm afraid to fight you. Okay. Because that's all he was doing. Okay, he didn't say yes. You know, we do the rematch or not. He was doing this. Okay, that's another word for no. I don't want to fight you. I'm afraid. Okay, so leave that alone. Talk about Spence. Because Spence will say, okay, well let's do it. You know, but then you got Porter. The Porters jumping into the ring and bulldogging the interview and start to really in a classless way coming in and bulldogging and. It kind of irked not only Gray, Jim Gray, but it irked the champion, okay, Danny Garcia, because Danny finally even says, "Hey, we can go outside, man. Let's take this to the hood." I mean, because Porter was not in the mix. I'm gonna tell you right now, I would not give Porter a fight. I would not, just because of them antics. And then on social media, man, I got a lot of feedback and a lot of comments tell me, you know, that's the way big fights are made. You got to go in there and you got to.
I'm telling you, man.
And they were talking about, well, Porter's a nice guy because a lot of people know him and they say he's a nice guy.
I know Kenny and Sean from the amateurs, man. They are nice guys.
Well, they're nice guys, but that doesn't mean
they've gotten swept up in all of this thing with the, you know, if you looked up on that stage before when they had all the champions up there, who's the first one they focused on? Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner, as far as most of us, because we're older, you know, he's pond scum in boxing. He's what is bad about boxing. But these young cats, for some reason, man, they like that. They really do like that. So I guess we have to look at it that way.
Well, no, I'm saying Porter's a nice guy. He's humble and he's a good friend, and I like it. It doesn't make him classy. Because this was completely out of order.
I agree. It was out of character for them. But they're firm believers now that the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Because the Porters have been very quiet, humble, proud, and now they've said, we can't get the fight, so we might as well start chirping like everybody else.
Well, let me tell you something.
It was classless.
Let me tell you something.
It really was classless.
A fight between Garcia and Porter will not bring in the money as a fight between Garcia and Thurman or Garcia and Spence.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
Earl Spence on Friday called him out. He said, I hope Danny Garcia wins so I can get him next.
Okay.
So we'll see what Danny Garcia has to say about that.
Now let's see if he jumps at that.
He ain't gonna jump at that.
We'll
he better not.
But anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, we gone over a little bit on this segment, but I'm gonna tell you it was a very exciting weekend, Steve. So
yeah, it was.
You know, let's we'll close this segment. We'll come back with our final segment. And guys, until then, Keep them hands up.
Keep them up, baby.
Stay classy.